Liam, honey, you need to clear your calendar for this weekend. You're taking me to that new French place downtown. I stepped into my husband's office, expecting the usual quiet sanctuary of his workspace. Liam had always been the picture of the ultimate devoted husband. Never a stray glance, always entirely focused on our life together. But today, he was holding the hand of the new intern. My blood ran hot. I marched toward them, my hand already raising to slap her smug face, when a strange, echoing voice vibrated directly in my mind. Go on, slap me. Hit me hard. The live feed said that as long as this toxic villainess slaps me, the male lead will hate her even more. This brainless rich girl is such a cliché. A tiny little trick and she already suspects him. Keep throwing your tantrums, honey. I'm the main character here. Your ending is a psych ward. Mine is a walk down the aisle. My hand froze in midair. I stared into the intern's wide, intensely hopeful eyes. Slowing my momentum, I let my hand drop slightly, gently cupping her soft, youthful cheek instead of striking it. You have beautiful skin, sweetheart, I murmured, brushing a thumb over her cheekbone. No wonder my husband likes it so much. He just can't seem to let go of your hand. Phoebe was visibly stunned. Her innocent little face faltered, completely unprepared for this twist in the script. Why didn't she slap me? The feed said the villainess would slap me the second she saw us holding hands. If she doesn't hit me, how is he going to feel sorry for me and start hating her? I scoffed internally. Hit you? In your dreams, sweetie. Liam let go of her hand, stepping toward me to wrap his arm around my waist. Charlotte, honey, don't get the wrong idea. She almost tripped, and I was just catching her. Of course I believe you. I looked up at him, flashing my sweetest, most compliant smile. Actually, Liam, I have a tiny favor to ask. What is it? I really like this girl. I slipped my arm through his, adopting the slightly spoiled, demanding tone he was so used to. I want her transferred to my office as my personal assistant. I needed to keep her close, right where I could monitor this bizarre internal frequency of hers. Liam frowned, hesitating. She's doing incredibly well in corporate strategy. The director specifically requested her for the team. In my head, Phoebe's inner voice cheered. The director never said that. The feed was right. The male lead already has feelings for me. He's making up excuses to keep me near him. Poor little rich girl doesn't suspect a thing. What an idiot. The irritation in my chest flared hot and sharp. I pushed Liam away. What is that supposed to mean? I can't even have one in turn. That's not what I meant. Then what do you mean? I demanded, locking eyes with him. Liam looked momentarily lost, his eyes instinctively darting to Phoebe. She stood behind him, looking like a trembling, defenseless deer. But her mind was throwing a party. Yes. Get mad. The feed is spot on. The more she throws a tantrum, the more sick of her he gets. He looked at me. He's worried about my feelings. My approval rating is soaring. I took a deep, steadying breath, swallowing the urge to physically wipe the smirk off her face. Liam, I'm going to ask you one last time. I crossed my arms, tilting my chin toward Phoebe. Yes or no? I was Charlotte Davenport. My parents had spent my entire life shielding me from the harshness of the world. And in our 5 years of marriage, Liam had never denied me a single thing. And now he was hesitating over an intern? Unacceptable. Liam looked at me, eventually letting out a quiet sigh. Of course, Charlotte. Whatever makes you happy. Phoebe's mind practically shrieked with panic. What? He's actually transferring me to her? No. If I'm stuck with her, how am I supposed to secure the male lead? Wait, the feed says it's fine. It says this will actually make him feel guilty, and he'll slowly start to see Charlotte as selfish and unreasonable. Yes, exactly. I just need to play the victim. He'll only pity me more. Over the next few days, I kept Phoebe under a microscope. Yet, every morning, her first priority wasn't reporting to me. It was sneaking off to Liam's office. He praised my reports today. He said they were better than what the senior analysts put out. Teehee. The feed says his affection level went up by 1. At lunchtime, she would coincidentally run into him at the cafeteria. He asked if I was eating alone and sat with me. He said I have such a great personality, that I'm hardworking, unlike some spoiled heiresses who only know how to spend money. In the afternoon, Liam would stop by my office under the guise of business. Seeing Phoebe typing away at her desk, he would casually murmur, "Don't work too hard, Phoebe. Go home early tonight." He cares about me. The feed is right. The less Charlotte does, the more my hard work shines. Sitting at my desk, my fingers tightened around the edges of the lifestyle magazine I was holding, slowly crushing the glossy paper. Technically, Liam hadn't crossed any lines. No touching, no kissing, no inappropriate texts. He probably genuinely believed he was just being a supportive mentor to a promising, hardworking young woman. But listening to those thoughts day after day made a cold dread settle deep in my stomach. It came to a head on Tuesday afternoon when I went to drop off some files at his office. I saw it in his eyes as he looked at her. A subtle shift. Something unfamiliar. admiration, and worse, pity. I decided to test him. The next morning, Phoebe handed me a brief. The formatting was a disaster, the fonts mismatched and messy. I took the folder, walked straight into Liam's office and tossed it onto his desk. Look at this. This is your brilliant intern? She can't even align a paragraph. How did she pass her screening? Liam flipped through the pages, his brow furrowing slightly, but his voice remained gentle. Charlotte, she's fresh out of college. There's no need to be so harsh. Formatting is something she'll get used to with time. He defended me again. The feed says the male lead is officially getting tired of her princess attitude. Later, I asked Phoebe to make me a coffee. When she brought it, it was lukewarm, drowned in milk, and sickly sweet. I took a sip right in front of her and spat it back into the mug. What is this? Are you here to work or are you on vacation? Phoebe's eyes instantly welled with tears. She lowered her head, her voice trembling. I'm so sorry, Charlotte. I'll make another one right away. Bear with it. The feed says the more she bullies me, the more cruel he'll think she is. Right on cue, Liam materialized at the door. Seeing her red-rimmed eyes, his frown deepened. Charlotte, it's just a cup of coffee. Is there any need to raise your voice like that? I looked up at him. She can't even remember how I take my coffee. You call that capable? She's only been here a week. Give her some time to adjust. Liam's voice carried a distinct edge of irritation. Do you always have to be so? He stopped himself, but I knew the word he wanted to say. Difficult. I let out a dry, humorless laugh. Leaning back in my chair, I waved my hand dismissively. Phoebe, leave us. Phoebe glanced between Liam and me, then walked out with her head bowed. Liam pulled up a chair next to mine, his tone softening. Charlotte, what is going on with you lately? Nothing. You're angry. He reached out, wrapping his fingers tightly around mine, locking our hands together. Is this still about the other day? I already gave you Phoebe, didn't I? I looked at him, searching his eyes. Did he really not see what he was doing, or was he just playing dumb? Let me ask you something, I said quietly. Do you think she's better than me? Liam stared at me for a second, then chuckled. What kind of comparison is that? You're my wife. She's just an employee. I'm only helping her because she genuinely has potential. Outside the door, Phoebe's triumphant thoughts floated in. He's absolutely comparing them in his head. The feed says his attraction score just ticked up again. Ignoring the voice, I kept my eyes locked on his. Then why don't you take Phoebe to our dinner date this weekend? You two can discuss all that potential over dinner. Liam sighed, reaching up to pinch my cheek playfully. Stop talking nonsense. Why would I take her? My weekend belongs entirely to my wife. A brief spark of warmth flickered in my chest, but it was instantly snuffed out by the voice outside. The rich girl is so incredibly gullible. She believes whatever he says. But the feed already predicted it. He's going to use a work emergency as an excuse, and then he's taking me to that food truck court I love instead. My smile froze. No, I told myself. The voices don't dictate reality. Whatever system she has, it could easily be a delusion. On Friday afternoon, I did my makeup, put on a new dress, and waited for Liam to finish work. At 5:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. Liam. Charlotte, honey, an unexpected client dinner came up. I can't make it tonight. I'm so sorry. I'll make it up to you, I promise. I stared at the screen, the blue light stinging my eyes. I typed out a long reply, then deleted it. In the end, I only sent one word. Okay. The next day, I was scrolling through social media when I saw Phoebe's latest post. There was no caption, just a single photo. A smoky street-side taco stand under string lights, and across the table, a man's hands. On his left ring finger was the band I had spent weeks picking out. After that weekend, Liam seemed to sense the distance growing between us. For the next few days, he came home early every night, bringing small gifts and trying to initiate conversation. On Wednesday night, as we lay in bed, he wrapped his arms around me from behind. Charlotte, I have a business trip this weekend. I have to go to Chicago for 3 days to close a major acquisition. It's crucial for the firm. I nodded against the pillow. Okay. He kissed the back of my neck. Good girl. I'll bring you back something nice. The next morning, as I walked toward my desk, I caught Phoebe's thoughts before I even opened the door. Oh my God. The feed says he's taking me to Santorini. Au Cliffs de Villa. The Sunset Suite. The exact place Charlotte has been begging him to take her for 5 years. The feed is right, I'm his soulmate. That high-maintenance villainess belongs in an institution. The ceramic mug in my hand nearly slipped from my grip. Santorini. The honeymoon we had promised each other when we got married. For 5 years, I had brought it up. He always said he was too busy. Next year, honey. Let's wait until things settle down. And now he was taking her. My hands shook as I quietly closed my office door. Around noon, I went down to Liam's office. He was reading through some documents, but he looked up and smiled when I walked in. Hey, miss me already? I sat opposite him, studying his face. This was the man I had loved for over a decade. Liam, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Do you remember the promise you made me? He blinked, then smiled warmly. Of course. Santorini. When are we going? Sweetheart, I am buried in work right now. He stood up, walking over to gently stroke my hair. As soon as things quiet down, I promise I'll take you, okay? As soon as things quiet down. The same empty currency he'd been throwing at me for years. I forced a smile and said nothing. I was tired of waiting. On Thursday they left. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office, watching his black sedan pull out of the parking garage. I pulled out my phone and texted my closest friend, Piper. Find me a divorce lawyer. The absolute best in the city. Her reply came instantly. Are you insane? I've never been more clear-headed. Just send me a name. A long pause. Then, Declan Ross. He's a partner at Ross & Associates, top-tier family law. He was also our high school class president. Remember him? I stared at the screen. Declan. The tall, quiet boy who used to leave cartons of strawberry milk on my desk during recess. The next day, I walked into his high-rise office. He was wearing an impeccably tailored three-piece suit, looking far more refined and grounded than he had in high school. There was a quiet strength to him that was entirely different from Liam's flashy confidence. After listening to my story, Declan didn't offer empty platitudes. He simply leaned forward. I'll draft the petition. We'll go after everything you're entitled to. He paused, his gaze softening. And my services are on the house. Declan, I can't let you do that. Sophomore year, when those 3 guys cornered me behind the gym trying to take my lunch money, you swung your skateboard and chased them off. I've remembered that for 10 years. He tilted his head, a faint, nostalgic smile playing on his lips. Back then, you told me if it wasn't for him, you would have chosen me. What about now? I couldn't find the words to answer. The night the draft agreement was finalized, I saw Phoebe's feed update on social media. The blue domes of Santorini, the golden Aegean sunset, the infinity pool hanging over the cliffs. The final photo was a silhouette of Liam. He was standing on a whitewashed balcony, looking out at the endless blue. Caption: Thank you for showing me the most beautiful place in the world. I stared at the screen for a long, quiet minute. Then I pulled up Liam's contact info, attached the draft divorce petition and sent it. I added a simple message. I want a divorce. Before he could reply, I blocked his number. I packed a bag and went straight to my parents' house. Seeing the exhaustion etched into my face, they didn't pry. They simply told me to rest, and assured me they had my back. I retreated to my childhood bedroom. Sitting in the dark, pulling my knees to my chest, memories of Liam flooded my mind like a projector on loop. Liam at 15, waiting for me by the bleachers. Liam at 18, setting off illegal fireworks under my window. Liam at 22, down on one knee, whispering that I was his entire world. Liam at 27, brushing my hair aside, promising we'd go to Greece when he wasn't so busy. 5 years of waiting. 5 years of believing him, only for him to take someone else. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was a text from Declan. Are you comfortable with the terms in the draft? I replied. Yes. It's perfect. Thank you, Declan. Declan, always. Would you do me the honor of letting me take you to dinner? I thought about it. Let me treat you instead. To thank you for all of this. Declan, I'd love that. Honestly, I've been craving a home-cooked meal. It's been a while since I had one. Reading his reply, I remembered how his parents had split up during our junior year, leaving him to live alone in a rented studio, often skipping meals before night study. My heart softened. Come over to my parents' place tomorrow. I'll have our housekeeper make us something. The next morning, my mother knocked and slipped into my room. You look pale, sweetie. Did you sleep at all? I'm fine, Mom. I paused. Could we add sweet and sour ribs to the lunch menu today? I thought you hated sweet glazes. They're for a friend. He's helping me through a lot, and I wanted to make sure he has something he likes. She smiled gently. Of course. I'll tell the kitchen. Around 11, the doorbell rang. I went to open it. Declan stood on the porch, wearing a charcoal gray crewneck sweater and dark trousers, holding a basket of fresh fruit. Thanks for having me. Come on in, I said, leading him toward the dining room. Declan was an effortless conversationalist. Within 20 minutes, he had my parents completely charmed. Then the heavy front door swung open. Liam walked in, looking disheveled and frantic. He took in the scene in the dining room, his expression darkening into something raw and ugly. We aren't even divorced yet, his voice cracked, hoarse and trembling. And you've already brought him into your parents' home? The mahogany dining table in my parents' house was laid with heavy silver and white porcelain. The rich, savory aroma of sweet and sour ribs drifted through the warm air, but the peaceful atmosphere of the room vanished the moment the heavy double doors of the entryway slammed open. Liam stood in the archway, his chest heaving under a rumpled half-buttoned linen shirt. His hair, usually styled into a perfect dark wave, was damp with rain and stuck to his forehead. He looked wild, his eyes bloodshot, his gaze instantly locking onto Declan, who was sitting quietly in the seat opposite mine. We aren't even divorced yet, Liam's voice cracked, hoarse and trembling. And you've already brought him into your parents' home? My mother stood up immediately, her face a mask of elegant, icy disapproval. Liam, this is the Davenport estate. You do not raise your voice in my house. And you certainly do not barge in uninvited. Mom, please, Liam pleaded, taking a step forward, his hands raised in a desperate gesture. Charlotte. She sent me a divorce petition. In Greece, Mom. On our anniversary trip. She blocked my number. I had to charter a private flight just to get back here. He turned his eyes to me, his gaze pleading, raw with a mixture of anger, exhaustion, and a strange, desperate panic. Charlotte, honey, please. Tell me this is a joke. Tell me you're just throwing another tantrum because of the client dinner. I slowly picked up my linen napkin, patted my lips, and set it down. My hands didn't shake. The cold, suffocating weight that had rested on my chest for 5 years had finally lifted, leaving behind a vast, quiet stillness. It's not a joke, Liam, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, yet it carried clearly across the silent dining room. The petition is real. Declan is my legal counsel. Liam's gaze snapped to Declan, his jaw tightening, his eyes flaring with a sudden vicious jealousy. Declan Ross, the high school sweetheart who never knew his place. You're using my wife's emotional state to line your pockets. Declan didn't flinch. He didn't stand up, nor did he raise his voice. He simply adjusted his glasses, his calm, dark eyes studying Liam with the cool, analytical detachment of a seasoned trial lawyer. Mr. Callahan, Declan said, his voice quiet but carrying a weight that made the room feel smaller. As Ms. Davenport's attorney, I must advise you to direct all communication through my office. Your presence here constitutes harassment. If you do not leave immediately, I will have the Davenport security team remove you. Security? Liam let out a harsh, disbelieving laugh. I built the merger that doubled the Davenport family's retail valuation last year. This is my family. No, my father's voice rumbled from the head of the table. He stood up, his towering, gray-haired frame casting a long shadow over the dining room. You were a husband, Liam, and we treated you as a son. But the moment you took our daughter's trust and dragged it through the mud of a cheap affair, you became nothing but a liability. My father looked at the butler standing by the door. Show Mr. Callahan out. Charlotte, please, Liam screamed as 2 burly security guards stepped through the doors, firmly but politely grabbing his arms. It was just an intern. I was just helping her. The trip to Santorini was a corporate retreat. I took her because she was my assistant. The absolute, insulting laziness of his lie made me want to laugh. But before I could speak, a familiar, high-pitched chiptune hum vibrated directly in my mind. It was her. Phoebe's inner voice, sharp and frantic, drifted in from the driveway outside. System warning. Male lead stress levels are critical. Affection level is fluctuating wildly. If he apologizes and Charlotte takes him back, my stream ratings will drop to 0. I have to intervene now. The feed says if I play the fragile, terrified victim who got dragged along, the male lead's protective instinct will max out, and Charlotte's parents will look like tyrannical monsters. I froze. A cold, dark smile slowly spread across my lips. She had actually followed him here. She had sat in his car waiting for the perfect moment to execute her script. Wait, I said to the security guards. The guards stopped, their grip on Liam's arms loosening slightly. Liam looked at me, a sudden, desperate hope flaring in his eyes. Charlotte? Honey. Let her in, I said quietly. Liam blinked, confused. What? Who? Phoebe, I said, looking directly at him. She's waiting in your passenger seat, isn't she? Tell her to come in. Since she's the co-author of our divorce, she deserves a seat at the table. The heavy front door creaked open, and Phoebe stepped into the dining room. She was wearing a simple, cheap white cotton dress that made her look incredibly fragile, her dark hair damp from the rain, her cheeks flushed a delicate pink. She looked like a trembling, defenseless deer that had wandered into a den of wolves. The moment she saw my parents, her eyes instantly welled with tears. She lowered her head, her voice trembling. Mr. and Mrs. Davenport. I'm so sorry. It's all my fault. I didn't know the trip to Santorini was meant for Charlotte. Mr. Callahan told me it was a mandatory corporate strategy retreat. I only went because I didn't want to lose my internship. Her mind, however, was throwing a raucous party. Yes, look at this posture. The feed is spot on, the fragile lower-class girl, standing up to the tyrannical billionaires. The viewers are going crazy. My approval rating is soaring. They're calling Charlotte a cold-blooded princess. Just a little more tears, and Liam will throw himself in front of me to protect me. I sat back in my chair, holding my wine glass, watching her perform. The absolute, clinical vanity of her internal monologue was so absurd that I didn't even feel angry anymore. Phoebe, I said, my voice calm, almost polite. She looked up, her eyelashes sparkling with tears. Yes, Charlotte? I'll resign tomorrow. I'll leave the city. Just please, don't hurt Liam's career. Because of me. The feed says she's going to slap me now. Come on, rich girl, hit me. Let the viewers see your violence. I'm not going to slap you, I said, taking a slow sip of my wine. And I'm not going to fire you. Phoebe's eyes widened, her internal voice suddenly halting in a confused, awkward silence. What? Why isn't she hitting me? The system script is glitching. The villainess is supposed to be violent. Actually, I continued, turning to my father. Dad, could you please call the head of the corporate auditing department? I believe we need a full forensic audit of Liam's corporate expenses for the past year. Liam's face instantly drained of all color. Charlotte, what are you talking about? It was just a trip. The flight to Santorini was booked using the Davenport Group's private client travel fund, I said, my voice dropping into a cold, flat register. The Cliffside Villa was charged to our corporate marketing budget under the guise of regional market research. And the 6-carat diamond necklace you bought her at the Athens airport was listed as a promotional gift for the Mercer Group. I looked at Phoebe, whose face had gone completely pale, her fragile, tearful act evaporating into genuine, cold terror. Under state law, Declan's calm, professional voice broke through the silence. Using corporate funds of a family-controlled conglomerate for personal, non-disclosed romantic pursuits constitutes felony embezzlement. If the Davenport Group files a formal complaint, the district attorney will have a warrant for your arrest within 48 hours, Mr. Callahan. What? Phoebe's mind shrieked, a high-pitched, chaotic static filling my head. Embezzlement? Jail? The feed never said anything about jail. System warning. Financial status of the male lead is decaying rapidly. His market valuation has dropped by 80%. If he goes to jail, he's no longer the male lead. The system will terminate my contract. Liam. Phoebe cried, her voice losing its sweet, innocent tone turning high and frantic as she grabbed his arm. Is this true? Is the money yours or hers? You told me you own 40% of the Davenport shares. Liam shoved her hand away, his face twisted in a mixture of anger, shame, and sheer panic-stricken desperation. Shut up, Phoebe. Just shut up. He fell to his knees on the Persian rug, his hands reaching out to grab the edge of my tablecloth. Charlotte, please. I was stupid. I was blind. She kept telling me how hard her life was, how much she admired me. I got caught up in the ego of it. But I love you. I've always loved you. The Davenport Group is my life. Don't destroy me over this. I looked down at him, kneeling in the dirt of his own lies. The man who had spent 15 years being my protector, my husband, and my entire world was now kneeling on my parents' floor, begging for his corporate shares. The Davenport Group is my life, Liam, I said quietly. You were just the tenant, and your lease has officially expired. The next morning, the board of directors of the Davenport Group met in an emergency closed-door session. Liam was stripped of his title as CEO, his corporate shares frozen pending the outcome of the forensic audit. The locks on his executive suite were changed. Before noon, his personal belongings packed into 2 plain cardboard boxes and left at the security desk. The public announcement of our divorce was brief, professional, and entirely devastating to his reputation. Within 48 hours, Liam's executive friends, the men who had shared silent, knowing looks with him at the cafeteria, refused to take his calls. The high society clubs he frequented revoked his membership, and his luxury apartment, which had been purchased using a Davenport family trust, was put up for sale. Phoebe's life was an even faster descent into hell. Without the corporate strategy position and the male lead's financial backing, her system began to systematically unravel. I sat in my new office on the top floor of the Davenport Tower, looking at the city skyline. The room was spacious, filled with the fresh scent of white lilies and cedarwood. My mind was entirely quiet. The high-pitched, chaotic chiptune hum of Phoebe's thoughts was gone, replaced by the clean, peaceful silence of my own life. Suddenly, my phone buzzed on the desk. It was a text from an unknown number. Charlotte, please. I'm at the cafe across the street from your office. I just want to talk to you. For 5 minutes. The system, it's killing me. I stared at the screen, a quiet, cold curiosity settling in my chest. Declan. I called out through the intercom. Declan walked in, his charcoal gray suit immaculate, his face carrying that Quiet, steady strength that made me feel so safe. Yes, Charlotte. Phoebe is across the street, I said. She wants to see me. Declan's eyes narrowed slightly. Do you want me to have security remove her? No, I said, standing up and grabbing my trench coat. I want to see what happens to a main character when the script runs out of pages. The local cafe was noisy and crowded, smelling of fresh coffee grounds and cinnamon buns. Phoebe sat in a corner booth, her head bowed, her dark hair tangled and unkempt. She was wearing a simple, cheap jacket, her fingers trembling as she clutched a glass of water. She looked thin, almost skeletal, her eyes wide and wild with a deep, frantic exhaustion. When she saw me walk in, she let out a quiet, strangled sob, her hands reaching across the table to grab my sleeve. Charlotte, please, she whispered, her voice cracking. Tell the system to stop. I don't want to play anymore. The moment I sat opposite her, the high-pitched, chaotic chiptune hum returned to my mind, but it was different now. It sounded like a broken record, the notes skipping, the voice distorted and mechanical. System warning. Host's rating has dropped to -50%. Viewer retention is 0. The stream is being terminated due to low engagement. Penalty protocol initiated. Host's life force is being liquidated to cover the system's operational deficit. I looked at her, my voice quiet and calm. There is no system, Phoebe. You're just a girl who tried to use a cheap, toxic algorithm to steal a life that didn't belong to you. No, it's real, she shrieked, her eyes wild, her fingers pulling a small black, metallic device from her pocket. The screen was cracked, a strange, pulsing green light flickering beneath the glass. It gave me the prompts. It told me what to say. It told me to play the victim so Liam would love me. But, Liam is broke now. He has no money. He screamed at me last night. He hit me. Charlotte. He said I ruined his life. She threw the device onto the table between us. Take it. Please. I don't want it anymore. It's eating my life. My hair is falling out, my skin is gray. I just want to go home. I looked at the black device on the wood. It didn't look like alien technology. It looked like a highly advanced, illegal, corporate tracking device, the kind used by rival conglomerates to run psychological profiles on executives to manipulate their decisions. Who gave you this, Phoebe? I asked, my voice dropping to a freezing, clinical whisper. The director of the Mercer Group, she whispered, her tears finally spilling over her eyelids. He said if I could use this to break up your marriage, the Davenport-Callahan merger would fail, and the Mercer Group could buy your retail division for cheap. He said it was a game, a stream. The puzzle finally fell into place. It wasn't a magical system. It was corporate espionage, wrapped in a high-tech, psychological game that had targeted my husband's weak, insecure ego. And Phoebe was nothing but a cheap, disposable tool they had used to execute the script. Marcus, I called out on my phone. Our security team stepped into the cafe within seconds, their faces stern and unyielding. Take the device, I ordered, pointing to the black metal on the table, and have the legal team file a formal corporate espionage and treason complaint against the Mercer Group. I want their entire board of directors indicted by tomorrow morning. I stood up, looking down at Phoebe, who was sitting in the corner of the booth, sobbing, her small, fragile act completely broken. The game is over, Phoebe, I said quietly. And you lost. The winter in the city arrived under a clear, bright blue sky, the tall glass towers of the Davenport Group reflecting the cold, golden sun. I stood on the balcony of my penthouse, a thick cashmere scarf wrapped around my neck, holding a warm cup of coffee. The city below was busy, noisy, and full of life, but my mind was entirely, beautifully quiet. The divorce had been finalized last week. Liam had been stripped of his corporate titles, his reputation ruined, his wealth liquidated to cover the Davenport Group's legal fees. He had taken a quiet, low-paying job as a draftsman in a small town in the Midwest, far away from the high society circles he had once lived in. The Mercer Group had been forced into bankruptcy after the corporate espionage files were made public, their retail assets acquired by the Davenport Group for a fraction of their value. Charlotte. The door to the balcony opened, and Declan walked out, wearing a thick gray sweater, holding a second cup of coffee. His dark eyes were warm, his posture relaxed, carrying that quiet, steady strength that had become my anchor. The board approved the final transition of the Mercer assets this morning. Declan said, a soft smile touching his lips. You're officially the youngest female CEO in the city's history. I smiled, leaning my head against his shoulder, the clean, fresh scent of pine and cedarwood enveloping me. Thank you, Declan, I whispered. For everything. Always, he said, his fingers gently catching mine, locking our hands together. So, since you're the boss now, do I get to take you to dinner tonight? No. Strategy meetings, no legal drafts. Just us. I looked up at him, my heart feeling a sudden, warm flutter, a real, healthy beat that had nothing to do with systems, scores, or ratings. I'd love that, I said. The sun slowly set over the city, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold, leaving the old scripts and the broken screens behind us in the dark as we walked forward into a life that was finally, beautifully our own.